Alright, so I got a question from Chris Ramos, and he asked me about the plugins that I use to get the tone for my guitar that I use in all of my videos, so I'm going to go into that right now. Yeah, so this is basically all the plugins that I've been using for the past several months. So like the clip that you just heard was from my song Bruce, which I just posted recently, and that is basically, it has everything that I'm going to show you right now. So just for full transparency, I'm still learning how to use this stuff too. But yeah, if you like my tone, like you said, then I'm totally happy with sharing it. So the first one I have here in Reaper, and first of all, I'm using Reaper, you don't necessarily need Reaper, but this is what I'm using. So then I click here on the effects thing. This is my effects chain generally. So the first one here is a compressor, and this is the one that comes with Reaper. It's like the stock compressor plugin. So it's called Comp because it's Reaper. So to me, it seems like the compressor kind of helps to control the dynamics of the sound when you're recording and stuff, or you're mixing. So it kind of helps to tame the volume levels. If something's a little too high, it kind of cuts it down a little bit, or if it's too low, it can raise it up so it's a little more even in volume. You know, there might be a better way of explaining it, but that's kind of the way that I've been looking at it. I've been kind of just going to the presets. So right here are the presets, and since I'm using distorted electric guitar, I just click that one, distorted electric guitar. Yeah, that's the first one that I have going. The second one is actually like the Stomp Box plugin that I think I showed you before. So this is called the TS999 version 1.5.2 from Ignite Amps. Oh, it's called the Sub Screamer from Ignite Amps. So for this, I generally have the drive very low. I don't really feel like I need the drive, and plus this plugin, the Ignite Amp stuff, I feel like it has so much distortion as it is that it's like you don't really need extra drive or extra gain or whatever. The tone, I believe from what I've heard, is basically the mids, so it's like extra mid-range, so I just kind of keep it around the middle, or maybe just a little more than that. The level, I'm pretty sure I heard Ola Englund say that if you turn it all the way down, then you can achieve that really awesome chugging sound. But like I said before, it's like the Ignite stuff has so much distortion as it is that I feel like when I put the level like that, there's just so much fizz and stuff. So I actually like to keep it around here, just literally just for that reason. So until I can figure that out, I'm going to keep it around here. The second one is the amp. So this is the Ignite Emissary, and I kind of went over this in another video that I showed you before. But for the lead tone, I've been using the preset Lead Fat. I think that sounds good. And I generally more or less like to keep all of the levels like around the middle, maybe a little more or a little less, but generally around there. I like to keep the depth just down because I'm pretty sure that's just like extra low end. I don't really feel like I need that at this point. And then the presence, actually I just heard in an interview with Ola and John Petrucci that presence can help with achieving that chugging sound. And again, this is for the lead tone, so I guess we don't really need it to achieve the chugging sound for the lead tone. So I just keep it around here. That's what I personally like. But it's all like preferential, you know what I mean? This is all experimenting and just like figuring out what you like and what I like. I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong. So the next one is the Nadir Cab, like I was talking about before. So for this one, I don't really do a whole lot at all, actually. All I really do is just I take the gain down just a little bit because it's at like medium when it comes. So I just kind of put the gain down just a little bit because there's just, like I said, there's so much gain. After that, we got the gate. So I'm just using the one that comes with Reaper, which is the Rhea gate. Again, just using a preset, I just go to electric guitar solo preset. And I just use that. But like depending on how loud it is, like these green bars are going to go up to that level, and then you can kind of just adjust it accordingly using this little bar. So this is the EQ. So all this stuff you can go like really in depth with, but this is kind of a general rundown, and again, I'm still learning. But something that I like to do is, like I said, so much distortion. So one thing that I learned from my guitar professor at Berkeley is a cool little trick. If you feel like you have just so much extra fizz, you know, on the high end, it's like really high end, like frequencies that come with electric guitars, like really highly distorted electric guitars. One thing that I've learned that you can really help to curb that, to go into the EQ. Again, this is the RIA EQ, just the Reaper plugin. And just, I guess, just to show you how to do that, just in case you're not familiar, all you gotta do is right click on this white part, go to Add Effects, and then just find the RIA, whatever plugin you want, but I'm using the RIA EQ right here, and you just click that and open it up. So anyway, so this is the EQ. This is kind of like the frequency spectrum. So you see these 4 little dots. It says 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can create more of them, but it comes with 4. And you can use them to control different frequencies of the frequency spectrum. So what I like to do, let's just say that there's nothing going on yet. I'll click, you know, number 4, and I like to go here. It says low pass. It says number 4 right here. Go click here, click low pass, and that means that all of the higher frequencies are going to get cut out, actually, as much as you drag this down. So you'll notice that the further you drag it down, the less higher frequencies. So basically it's like, it's a good way to get rid of that fizz that happens on the distorted guitars. Also, in a mix, it's generally a good idea to have a high pass. So that was a low pass. So now I would go down and click the number 1 thing and go here, click high pass. And that's actually going to do the opposite. It's going to get rid of lower frequencies that, not to get too technical or whatever, but like the lower frequencies down here in the guitar is not really needed in the context of a mix. Especially a metal mix where you want everything to sound really clear and there's so much going on as it is. It's a good idea to use this to just put it down here and get rid of excess low, like really low end frequencies that you're not even really going to notice if it's gone. Now I'll go up to the RIA delay. And this is one of my favorite plugins actually. And again, comes with Reaper. And yeah, I love delay. I use delay on my lead tone all the time. But I don't really use it as an effect. I use it more like just to fill out the space. So like one of my favorite delays is the one that John Petrucci has. I just love his delay. It sounds so good. So then I looked into it and I learned that he actually uses a certain kind of delay. I'll actually show you really quick. So right here it says length musical. It's the second bar down. You notice that it says eighth notes. So not to get too complicated, but this is counting in eighth notes. So if I put, let's say, 2 eighth notes, I just wrote 2 right there. So that means that, you know, 2 eighth notes equates to 1 quarter note, right? So in the context of a song, if it's the beat's like 1, 2, 3, 4, each of those is a quarter note. So if you have 2 eighth notes, 2 eighth notes is a quarter note. Anyway, so I go down here and it says eighth notes. So he uses, yeah, a combination of quarter note and an eighth note, or a dotted eighth actually. I'll type in 2 because 2 eighth notes is a quarter note. And then I'll actually click this thing called add tap, which I've already done. But yeah, I'll add tap. It creates this new thing that you can put an extra delay. And now I'll go here and I'll type in 1.5, which is, you know, like I said, dotted eighth note. So that means that it's 1.5 eighth notes. So now you're going to have a combination of the dotted eighth with the quarter note delay. And it's just going to sound awesome. I love how it sounds. It makes it sound really spacious. So reverb, I usually don't use reverb. The only times I really use it are like parts of the song where it's very sparse and there's not a whole lot going on. Like there's no drums, like everything cuts out except for the guitar basically. That's really the only time I would use reverb. In those situations, it can help to kind of fill up the empty space. But in the context of an entire mix where like everything's going on with like the drums and the bass and everything, and like other guitars and stuff, especially in the metal mix, there's just so much going on. So if you were to add reverb on top of that, I feel like it's going to mask a lot of stuff. It's going to make things sound muddy and muddled, and that's not really what you want in a metal mix. You want clarity. You want everything to sound really clear. So actually the intro of Bruce, the song that I posted recently, the intro has some reverb on it. And that only lasts for a little bit. It lasts for like 5-10 seconds, and then it goes into the song. But I did that so it can help to fill out the empty space, basically. And then when all the other instruments kick in, I cut out the reverb completely. I'm not saying this is like, you know, set in stone. Everyone has different preferences. A lot of metal guitarists do like using reverb. A lot of them don't, though, and I'm just one of those people. But you can experiment and see what you like. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it sounds different, basically, and just use your ears and see what you like. Alright, so now my rhythm tone. A lot of it is actually really similar. So, you know, same kind of thing. There's the compressor, and yeah, I'll go to the distorted electric for now. Same kind of thing with the, you know, the TS999 thing, the overdrive thing. Pretty much just the same settings here. Ignite Emissary. This time I'll go to the lead. I've been doing the lead chug preset. If you want that extra chuggy tone, then you can experiment with doing more presence or something and just see what sounds good to you. I've been experimenting with that because I really do want to achieve that tone because I just love how it sounds. I actually like to take out the depth, like I was saying before. Not a lot of bass. So one thing that's interesting is that like when you're playing metal guitar stuff, you have a tendency, or a lot of people, especially people who are just starting, we have a tendency of wanting to put like as much gain as possible because we think it sounds like super metal and stuff and aggressive. But actually you'll notice that in the context of an entire mix, if that's what you're going for, putting a whole lot of gain is actually going to make it sound muddy. It's going to make it sound just kind of bad, like way too much distortion. So I like to keep it around 12 o'clock or a little higher. Alright, same thing with the cab, the Nadir, nothing changed with that. Okay, this is a huge change. This is something that I don't have on my lead thing. This is actually not a free plugin. This is from Waves, and I think this was maybe like $30 or something like that. So this is called the C4 multi-band parametric processor. So this is basically a multi-band compressor. So the way that I understand it, it's kind of like a compressor, but you can control it in a really detailed, more exact way by like isolating certain frequencies of the frequency spectrum. And really the only reason that I use this is actually a really important reason for me. Like, you ever have times where you're playing guitar and you're like, you know, chugging on a riff or something, and it just sounds really flubby, or, you know, there's like excess bass, and like the tone that I'm trying to achieve is kind of similar to, like, if you think of Master of Puppets, you know, the old school Metallica. Not exactly that, but in terms of like tightness, I really love that tightness. So with this thing, the C4 stereo, it's not the only multi-band compressor out there, but this can be really handy for kind of taming that flubbiness. So what I learned is this little trick. So I'll go in here and I'll put this thing on bypass, put this on bypass, this on bypass, and I'll leave this one not on bypass. And then I'll go here, this little bar right here, I'm going to drag it down when I'm playing, whatever I'm playing. And I'm going to drag it down so it's, as you drag it down, you're going to actually start to hear the flubbiness just decrease. And you're going to hear the tone of the rhythm tighten up more. So this has been extremely helpful for me. So helpful. I use this with all of my rhythm stuff. Got the Reagate, same idea as before, but I just use the rhythm preset, electric guitar rhythm. Now, I don't use a delay on rhythm at all, ever. I used to when I had no idea what I was doing, when I didn't really have anything in mind that I was trying to achieve and I was just kind of experimenting. What I realized is, like I said, I really want that clear, tight rhythm sound, and you can't achieve that with putting delay on the rhythm, especially in a metal mix when you have all this other stuff going on. You want it to sound really tight. Alright, so the last thing is the reverb. Same situation as before. I rarely ever use it. It's only when there's like really sparse sections. Other than that, I don't really use reverb. But yeah, this is Reverb 8, which is one of the stock plugins that comes with Reaper. And these aren't even necessarily my settings, but I just like to experiment and just see what sounds good to me. So for the sake of full transparency, I also use a mix template. So I actually bought a template from this guy. His name's Drusif Stalin, and he's this metal guy. You can listen to his stuff on Spotify or whatever. And I saw a video of his, and he made this template that it's not free, but for me it's completely worth the investment, because he basically mixes everything for you, from the guitars to the bass to the drums, like everything. He mixes everything for you, sets it all up, so all you gotta do is just record basically, and it's just really, really handy. The one thing that he said in the video that makes a lot of sense is that he's using different equipment probably than you. He's using his own guitar, so it's going to create a different tone. So it might not be the same tone that you end up with, but these are just like his preferences for his personal, equipment and stuff like that, and his own taste. But even despite that, like I noticed that definitely when I put it on my stuff, it definitely did sound different. It wasn't like quite as good actually, but it was still a whole lot better than what it was, to the point that when I showed my newest mix back then, this was a few months ago, but when I showed my mix to my guitar teacher, he said that it sounded like night and day compared to my typical mix. So it's definitely really, really helpful. I'll put the link in the description in case you're interested in that, just looking at the template. So if you're new to my channel, I post new stuff every Monday and Thursday, like recording tips like this, as well as a lot of guitar performances and other kinds of tips and stuff like that. And also I want to say thank you to my Patreon community. You guys are freaking awesome. And you can go there for really cool exclusive content, like my own personal recording process and like my thought process when it comes to making songs and stuff like that. Also really helps me out a whole lot to fund my videos, so I really, really appreciate you guys. You're freaking awesome, and I'll see you in the next video. Alright, see ya.